Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And guys, like always, if you're tuning in live, we appreciate it. Leave the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Do the same with the podcast platform, wherever you are listening, be that Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you get it. I actually use a weird third-party app because I don't like the Android options anymore. I kind of fell out of love with Spotify a little bit ago, but regardless, do all that good stuff. It really helps us out. And look, before we get talking about the Pistons today, I wanted to ask, did Detroit get as bad of weather as the Grand Rapids area did kind of over the past, 4 or 5 days? Because it got kind of nasty a little bit here with some early storms, which I was not expecting this early in the year.
Yeah, it was cold over here too. And yesterday, we're recording on Thursday night, so Wednesday was just horrible all day long, rain and stuff. I know there was some places probably got hit worse than us, but today, Thursday, it's finally warmer out, the sun's out. It's a little windy, but it's a good sign. I think we're getting there.
See, that's all good. We actually lost power over the weekend. It wasn't the end of the world. It was only a few hours, but it was really the first time that had happened without us having the ability to put stuff in a freezer elsewhere. We had the refrigerator saga last summer where we were able to just put some stuff in a deep freezer and call it a day. So I was just kind of sitting there consumers was expecting to get it fixed up by the morning. I'm whatever's in the fridge, if it doesn't make it, it's okay. There's nothing we can do. But they got it fixed pretty quickly, which was nice, but weird feeling for sure.
That's the worst. Yeah, we lost power kind of randomly a couple months ago in my house.
Oh dang.
We have horrible cell service. Obviously Wi-Fi is good, but if the Wi-Fi is out, so if the power goes out, we kind of can't check in on anything. So and it was at night too, so me and my wife were taking shifts driving somewhere to get cell service so we can check DTE and see what the outage map was and when we were going to get power back. So yeah, I guess just a heads up, if we're ever recording and the power goes out or my internet goes out, I'm kind of out of luck, unfortunately.
That's wild that you have to drive to go get decent cell service. That is, who do you have? Sorry, this is now totally off topic. Who do you have as a service provider?
AT&T. It's just this
and
area.
It's still not good?
Yeah, it's not great.
My wife and I are using Mint Mobile, and we get fantastic service over here in Grand Rapids for extremely cheap. So that's good, at least. All right, if you guys are tuning in live, of course, make sure that you ask questions, whatever questions you got, in the chat. We should have plenty of time to get to those today. But talking with the Pistons, we really got I guess 3 things where we could start off with, right? We have that whole Timberwolves fiasco that happened a few nights ago, the OKC game that just got over the last night. We're recording here on a Thursday afternoon, and then Cade's injury as well. So where do you really want to start with these topics?
Well, I guess this is maybe a fun thing because I know we'll get into the actual basketball in a little bit, and it is a kind of related to the fight. But was it just me, or was the statement from Tom Gores last night a little bit weird, especially the timing of it? It was released, I think, at halftime while the Pistons were playing the Thunder, and what he said was fine. It was good. It was just backing up his players and just reiterating the identity of Detroit basketball and this team specifically. And I know it was while Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart, and Marcus Sasser were serving their suspension. So maybe the time did make sense a little bit, but I was also just this is just odd. And I was curious if I was the only one who felt that way.
Okay, so patch me in on what it said and why it was weird. Because look, I saw that he put out a statement. I maybe read 2 words, and then I just kind of moved moved on. I didn't really care. I was like, oh, nice. Tom Gores wants to say something about his team playing tough and improving this year. Good for him. And that was kind of the end of my attention span for it. So like what happened with that?
Yeah, and it again, it wasn't like the statement itself because I thought it was good, but essentially he started off by saying that the whole organization stands behind their players, wish the penalty outcome was different, and just has pride for the players, passion for the city, and supports everyone, and just reiterating that play like these Pistons compete with passion and teamwork, and they love each other, and thanking the fans as well. So like all in all, I thought it was great what he said itself. I was just kind of like, it was something I was not expecting, and when you get a statement from the owner in the middle of the game, especially, I was just like, huh, that's interesting. But and I also just can't remember in recent memory at least like an owner speaking publicly, especially in a written statement, just like backing up their players after, especially after like punishments were handed down. Like I wonder what the league thinks about that, honestly.
Yeah, so that is, now that you put it that way, it is actually pretty interesting. And Mimsy313 says Tom Gores with the W. Love that. Sounds like it. It kind of sounds to me like there's not going to be any, dictation from on high telling JB to get the guys to clean it up, right?
Hmm.
If anything, I guess the only takeaway is that Tom Gores is cool with it and he doesn't care. He maybe even kind of sort of likes it because all the fans seem to really like it. That is, of course, Detroit basketball. That's really, I mean, it's not just basketball, right? That's most sports teams in the city of Detroit, I would say, kind of push that line, toe that line, like Isaiah Stewart, like the Pistons do, which is great. It's really fun to watch. I love it. I know I love it. I think you like it. And obviously, it seems like there's been a lot of fan interaction, more ticket sales, more, just video of people walking around the city wearing Pistons gear, stuff like that. So yeah, I guess it's weird, obviously, that he just put it out in the middle of a game. But on the other hand, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good that there's not going to be a big change coming, or that the ownership group thinks, hey, like, we can't keep doing this. You got to clean it up.
Yeah, yeah, it is cool to have that transparency now that I'm thinking about it too, and like, hey, maybe with how much he supports it, he's picking up some of like the fines and the missed pay
At least
from
Ron
some of the
Hollins.
missed games, or yeah, give JB some more freedom to call out officials in his post game press conference. Did he ever get fined for
I
that
was about
rant,
to
by the
ask
way?
you that too, because I haven't seen it either. I don't think
I
he did.
I don't think
I
he
don't think he
did.
got fined.
Yeah, and we would have seen that. So hey, credit for JB. Like after that game, I was like, he's about to get his money's worth for sure. And by that, he definitely did, but it didn't end up costing him anything. So that kind of speaks loudly without saying anything.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the skirmish there that
Hmm.
happened in Minnesota, since we already are on the subject. And I mean, I don't think that there's too much to say about the actual thing, right? The actual occurrence when it happened. Like, you had Isaiah Stewart and Malik Beasley were chirping quite a bit. The play beforehand was the pushing match between Stewart, DiVincenzo, and a little bit of Gobert, I believe, if I remember right. So, the actual that there was an altercation, not all that surprising. I think what was a little bit surprising was that Nas Reed and Dante DiVincenzo went so harshly after Ron Holland when,
Hmm.
I mean, that was, Omari mentioned this on the Pistons Pulse, but like, that was a very normal foul. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, Ron was complaining because he didn't think he fouled him. He did. It was a foul, but it wasn't a hard foul by any means in terms of NBA standards. And to have Nas Reed come back and kind of initiate that whole exchange based on that made me think that basically the Timberwolves were a little bit peeved that the rest of the Pistons players were toeing the line a little bit. And so they went after a 19-year-old. And look, if you're going to go after any 19-year-old, that was the wrong one to pick, right? They should
Hmm.
have, if you wanted an easy target, they should not have picked Ron Holland, who's been on the borderline of literally throwing hands multiple times this season. So like I think they made a bad calculation there. Maybe they should have gone for Sasser, who still got suspended. And kicked out. I don't know what he did. Regardless, didn't seem like the smartest move by the Timberwolves. What has stuck with me and what has been more frustrating for me was the suspensions. So why don't you just take a minute to go through what those were and then what your thoughts were on those three?
Yeah, so the suspensions the league handed down was 2 games for Isaiah Stewart. He gets the biggest punishment of the bunch, and I did not like look through the exact league press release, and but I did see some chatter that that was a lot due to prior uh issues and just like punishments that have been handed down.
Which
And then
makes sense. I mean, he's about
yeah,
to be in the range of being suspended for technical fouls too. So like that is a legitimate gripe. I think that one does make sense.
yeah, and then after Stewart, Sasser got a game, as did Ron Holland, and then on the Wolves side, I think it was just Naz Reid and DiVincenzo got a game apiece, and that was it for the suspensions for them. I mean, I yeah, like what you said, I'm not really sure why Sasser was suspended. And same with like Ron Holland, honestly. I guess just I knew suspensions were coming because of how it like spilled into the crowd and everything. And I get why you give Isaiah Stewart an additional game. Like the league has shown a history of doing that for players that they repeatedly hand down punishments to. See Draymond Green as the prime example for that. Um, so basketball wise, it definitely stunk because the game totally flipped after that, and the Pistons were just more bare than they already were, and weren't able to keep up. So yeah, overall I'm happy it didn't like escalate more than what it did, even though it was like it's the biggest in-game fight I can remember in like some time, honestly. But like no one got hit. Ron Holland was bleeding a little bit, if that tells you anything about what happened. So overall, I'm happy at least Sasser and Holland are coming back after 1 game, and it's not incredibly like I was worried Stu was going to get even longer, honestly, just because of the history thing.
Yeah, I was too. I was worried Stu was going to be like the rest of the season or something for that, which I guess on the one hand, maybe could
It's
have
like
been a
5 games.
blessing in disguise. Yeah, it's 5 games, and I think he's maybe 2 technical fouls away from getting a game suspension anyway. Now, all of that stuff resets once the playoffs start, so not a long term concern there. But I mean, there's a good chance that Isaiah Stewart ends up suspended for a game within the next 4 games that he plays, since he's still got one more on the suspension. So I'm glad that Stu wasn't longer. I'm with Mimsy 313. I did not see what Marcus Sasser did in the moment. I didn't see it
He was
afterwards
just in the
either
middle
in
of
any
it.
replay. Yeah, he was just like around, I guess, and I suppose that's enough to get a suspension. I understood the ejection on that one because like he was part of a crowd that seemed to be trying to like move people, clear stuff out. So like I get that, where he's a prominent member of the the altercating parties, so you just want to clear it out and get rid of it. I understood the ejection from the game. The suspension though, I don't get. However, I am willing to give the NBA the benefit of the doubt there, that maybe they saw something or the refs saw something that we were not privy to that like warranted him needing a suspension. I do not understand Ron Holland getting suspended at all. I didn't understand Ron Holland getting ejected from the game in the first place. He got jumped, Blake.
Hmm.
He got jumped. His back was turned. He gets pushed from behind. It starts into a shoving match. DiVincenzo tackles him. And then from that moment on, he is buried beneath Naz Reid in a pile of not only players, but a couple of fans and staff members as well. Like he is on the ground on his back. Whatever he did in that pile is not escalating a conflict. It is purely self-defense. I cannot think of any other way to think of, even if these are NBA punches, right? Even if what's being pushed at him is like just like a light talking to that looks really angry and he's getting pinned down on the floor to get it. Like whatever he does to get out of that is fully justified. And then he just, as soon as his teammates, by the way, because he didn't get to clear himself from this pile, he got pulled out, I believe, by Isaiah Stewart. So when he was finally pulled out and kicked away, he just walked back. Like he was walking backwards to keep looking at everything, but he wasn't even hardly talking. He was just walking back. Like, what is he supposed to do? Why is he? I did not get that at all. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I would like someone to explain it to me, like I am five, how you could get basically tackled during an NBA game, buried in the bottom of a dog pile, removed by your own teammates, and still suspended a game. I think he was punished enough.
Yeah. And honestly, like the first 10 or however many times I watched the replay, like you can't even like see Ron Holland at the bottom of the
No, you
pile.
can't.
And
It's only the like live videos that actually caught him.
yeah. And once you realize like he's down there, it's kind of like scary in a sense because like what and that's like then if you want to like parlay this into more like I think part of it, I think Stewart mainly got an extra game because of the history, but like also there was in that fan video you can see Stewart grabbing like Nas Reed's like head. I don't think he really tried to put him in a chokehold or anything, but he just like grabbed his head. But that was to get him off of Ron Holland. Like yeah, Stewart did go at DiVincenzo a bit, but I think otherwise, like what Stu was trying to do was get his teammate out of there. So yeah, Holland, the only like explanation I can think of for his suspension is like he was in the middle of it, like Sasser was. I am with you that I don't really think that that's a reason for a suspension anyway, but at least it was just a game and nothing more than
I'm
that.
just trying to think of an alternative, right? Like you're the NBA, you're dealing out the suspensions. The suspension is to try and like punish behavior that you don't want to see happen more of in your games moving forward. So like you
Mhm.
said, I get it with Isaiah Stewart because he's a repeat offender at this point, and as you said, he was fairly aggressively trying to clear out the pile. I get it. DiVincenzo, Nasrid, obviously, I understand they started the whole thing. Like you do not want more of that. Marcus Sasser, I'm willing to like give the benefit of the doubt and say that he did something that the league does not want to see repeated more like moving forward by Marcus Sasser. But what was Ron Holland supposed to do? Lay down and take it? Like what are we punishing there? I do not get it. I know I've said
Yeah.
that. I just
And
don't get it.
it can't be like anything that was like spoken either because you can't like I've never seen someone suspended for something like that in a game. Sure, like getting tossed from the game, but yeah, I don't know. And just like all the angles that we've seen with the different broadcasts as well as like the fans who were there and getting shots of it, like I didn't see anything from Holland other than he fouled Nas Reed and Nas Reed took exception to that. And that's how everything started. I thought it was just so wild how Nas Reed like wagged his finger at Ron. Like I did not, I'd honestly say that DiVincenzo was kind of like the main aggressor of everything. Like he just had no reason to do what he did. But like Nas Reed's reaction to Ron Holland was just wild.
I stand by it. I think I feel as though I'm fairly confident in what happened to start the whole thing, and that's that the Timberwolves were really upset about Isaiah Stewart and Malik Beasley talking and doing as much stuff as they were. So they went, let's go after the 19-year-old rookie. It just so happens that that's not the 19-year-old rookie you want to go for. Maybe they would have been better served going after Sasser or something. But then at the same time, it probably doesn't look as good for them from their perspective because Sasser's only like, 6'1", 6'2", and you got a huge size.
Mhm.
Whatever. I'm upset above all at this point, Blake, that this season of Pistons basketball has made me talk negatively about the referees now twice in like a month span. And you know how much I hate doing that. I just want to ignore the refs, take them as a given and move on. It doesn't matter. But this is twice now where I'm legitimately upset, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, you can only hope that the this like young team's reputation doesn't lead to any similar officiating. And I mean, if the game's out of control, I know the officials need to do what they need to do to get the game back in control, but I really hope that there isn't such like a short leash with the Pistons, which it there definitely seems to be at times.
All right, so let's move along. Let's talk about Cade Cunningham's injury because we actually got this already as a question from Steve Harwood in the DBB comments. How about Cade's injury? Look, Blake, are you worried right now about Cade's injury? Right, he's out. He's been out. I think has it been 5 games now.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so 5 games with I believe it is a calf contusion, where if we kind of translate that into normal English, he has a bruise on his calf. Are we worried about the injury?
Um, so I wasn't, but I guess I do understand the increasing worry, like each game that passes by. And I know there was some reporting out there. I forget who it was, so I apologize that the plan is to get Cade back ready for the game Saturday. So I think that's a good sign. And like you mentioned, just what the injury is and the mildness of it, I think if it was more serious, we would have at least heard something about it by now. And I totally get it. Like when the guy who makes your team go, and is who you need to rely on to like who's taken you to this point and who needs to take you to further places, like it's totally a fair concern. And I know things like this in the past has happened, but I just think this season is different. This team is winning. They're in position to they're on the verge of clinching a top 6 spot. So I think they're being overly cautious based on where they are. I don't think they should be in cruise control by any means, which I don't think they are. So I'd say I'm willing to give it through this weekend and hopefully see Cade's return. And if not, then maybe I'll start to get a little more like, oh, what's going on here?
Real quick, I have to read this out because I know every now and then my wife listens to the podcast and she would find this extremely funny. Mimsy313 says, if I had a nickel for each time Wes has talked about the refs, I'd have 2 nickels. That isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. I love that. Classic Doofenshmirtz right there. That's fantastic. Look, so with Cade's injury, I get it too. Like I understand the concern as well, and I think it goes a little bit more deeply than just this season because you're right. Obviously, the Pistons are here right now because Cade Cunningham is playing like a top 15, top 10 type of player, right? That's why the team is where it is. He's taken that leap, and yes, the roster around him has allowed him to do that, and it all kind of makes sense. It's working together, and it's still not perfect. Blah blah blah. All that is to say, this season the success is built on Cade Cunningham. We also have a lot of recent history, right? I mean, you could go back to the first time that Cade really got hurt, right? That shin injury he had. I believe that was initially reported as just shin soreness, right? Calf soreness, something along those lines. And then he ends up missing the whole year. You can go back a little bit further than that with Blake Griffin, right? Blake Griffin brings them back to the playoffs, and it was kind of touch and go there the last month or so of the season. He ends up playing in the playoff series anyway, and lo and behold, it kind of ruined his athletic ability for the rest of his career after that point. So like I get it, right? We're Pistons fans. We've been burned by something like this before. But okay, big but here. Cade has a bruise on his calf.
Mhm.
right? That's what contusion means. He has a bruise. It could be a deep bruise. It could be a bruise where the soreness isn't going away as quickly as you would like, but it's a tissue problem. It's just a bruise. I am almost 100% confident. Let's just put it at 90%. I am 90% confident that if the playoffs started today, Cade would be playing basketball. I think you look at the schedule of the teams they've faced since Dallas. Okay. The Pelicans, who they had recently at that point blown out by like 50 points, and they did end up winning the game. The Spurs, in a game where they won by almost 30. The Cavs, maybe you had an argument, but that Cavaliers team is unreasonably good, right? They're incredibly good. They're on a 60 win pace if they've not exceeded that already. And why would you bring your star back and push it for that? The Timberwolves as well, they've beaten the Timberwolves. The Thunder, you think that they had a chance to win that game? I know that they made it competitive, but ahead of time, did anybody think they had a chance to win that game or be competitive in that game without Stewart and Sasser and Holland as well? Like, Cade wasn't going to help that. That wasn't going to push him back in. There hasn't been a reason to rush it back yet. So I'm sure, yeah. So Chuck Brewer says he's walking without a limp and is very much active going down the bench. Yeah, like I'm sure he's fine. Like this isn't a big time concern. I don't think we as fans should be worried. I think they're just waiting for the right moment. The other bit of this too is their magic number for the playoffs, like the playoffs, right? Clinching a top 6 seed is just the Hawks or just the Magic, excuse me, losing a game because they've already won more games than the Hawks are capable of winning, and the Magic currently hold their tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they basically have that locked up. Does it really matter if they're the 5th seed or the 6th seed? They're 3 games behind the Pacers right now with 5 to go. That's pretty tough. That's a tough one to close in just 5 games. So you're pretty much looking at the Pacers or the Knicks. Does anyone really have a strong preference between those outside of just entertainment value? Like both are going to be really tough matchups. There's just no reason to push it if he's not feeling 100%, even if he's at 96%. There's just not a reason to push it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's being overly cautious. And I think what you bring up about the schedule is an important point because they were still able to win a couple games with Cade out. And I do think just where this team is just
So
in
real
the
quick, they're 3-2.
yeah,
They're three and
like
two in those 5 games. That's good.
yeah, like beyond this year, I'd say it's important to have a winning season. Like if they were not in that range and Cade was sitting, I'd be like, okay, like maybe you just get to that point. They're already there. And like you said, nothing drastically is going to change in the playoff. Like you're not out, but you're almost out of that home court advantage and potentially getting up to the 4. So like you said, it really is like 5 or 6, and yeah, the magic number. The Pistons have 6 tries to win 1 game, and then they're locked into the top 6, and that doesn't even factor in what the Magic do. Um, so overall, like I don't. I think you do need to be careful with Cade. I don't think you should just like sit him for the rest of the season. But where how things are shaking out right now, I think you have to just be like cautious and like nothing is indicated that this is serious. And what Chuck Brewer mentioned with how he looks on the bench, like I agree with that. And Mim C also brought up that Cade got to he's played in a lot of games this season. I don't think it's a coincidence that he was at 66 games before he started to sit down, and you need 65 to be eligible for postseason awards. Like I'd want him to get to that, just because I think he's deserved it with how he's played. Like whether he's gonna be the most improved player, like I think he's definitely gonna make an All NBA team. Once you got to that, it was, and if nothing drastic is gonna change in the standings, I don't think it hurts to to rest your star for a few games if he needs it, and just make sure that you're ready to go for the playoffs.
Let's loop in this question here from El Blues. It says, what would closing the season strong look like? Knowing what we do now about injuries and seeding, I want to bring this up in the conversation initially, right in the context of Cade Cunningham making his return, because look, if you look at these next 6 games, the 6 games they have to close out the year, Raptors, Grizzlies, Kings, Knicks, Bucks, Bucks. These next 4 games are really important. I think there is a good chance that if you can beat the Raptors, Grizzlies, and Kings, you may have already knocked the Bucks out of contention for that 5th seed. Like I really think that that's there. The Raptors, I know they're kind of like in the middle ground, but they're not necessarily a good team right now. The Grizzlies just lost their head coach for reasons unknown, and we know what's been going on in Sacramento, that they're not a strong team either. So if the Pistons can win these next 3 games, and you're sitting at, what would that be, 45 and 34, with the Bucks currently at 41 and 34, right? They currently have a half game on the Bucks. I think that is absolutely worth pursuing. So it would not shock me if you see Cade return, like you said, Saturday against the Grizzlies, Kings, and Knicks. And if he could get to 46 wins, right? Win all 4 of those games, 46 wins, you could probably just rest him and whoever the heck you want against the Bucks for those last 2.
Yeah, or even like the flip side of it, if you want to take it easier, like in this immediate stretch that's on the horizon, like the Bucks, although they're dealing with their own stuff, especially with Dame, who has a much more serious injury, and I saw he might come back sooner than expected, which is great. But the Bucks play the Pelicans twice. They have the Sixers. Like if
The
if the
Heat,
Pist
not a
yeah,
cakewalk.
if the Pistons and the Bucks are like neck and neck heading into those last 2 games, like you could just have Cade go for that, and if you really want to get up to that 5 seed and whatever, you might like you have 2 opportunities at the end of the season, like with the team that you're jockeying for playoff positioning with, to go out and just decide it on the court. So that could be another way to do it as well.
Just looking at the Bucks schedule too, you got the 76ers, Heat, Pelicans, Timberwolves, Pelicans, Pistons, Pistons. If they lose 3 games and the Pistons can win 4, that is game over, just
Hmm.
for what it's worth, right? It's not, at that point, it's not coming down at all to those last 2. Those last 2 games are kind of irrelevant, which to me is a bit of a dream scenario. I don't, if you care about seeding, right? If you want that 5th seed instead of the 6th seed, I would rather not have to face Giannis looking down the barrel of basically 2 playoff games, right? To
Hmm.
figure out how things are going to shake out. I would like to just avoid that. So direct to Al Blues' question here, what would finishing the season strong look like? Win the next 4 games. Beat the Raptors, the Grizzlies, the Kings, and the Knicks. If you could do that and be sitting at 46 wins with 2 games to go there against the Milwaukee Bucks, not only do I think that there's a good chance it doesn't matter if you go 0-2 there, but I think that that would be, regardless of the Bucks outcomes, finishing extremely strong.
Yeah, and looking at the Knicks game too, because I think in the games you mentioned, I think that's sort of the swing one. I mean, obviously each game depends on like who's available and everything like that. But by the time the Pistons play the Knicks, which is Thursday, April 10th, so a week from when we're recording, like the Knicks are probably going to be locked into the 3 seed. So they might be sitting all their guys their final few games there too. So that just, even though on the schedule, looking at it, like that jumped out as like the toughest game in that stretch to me. But it just might be winnable at that point. But I guess you also never know with Tibbs what that guy's gonna do.
True. Yeah, you don't. Do you have any hope left of catching the Pacers? By the way, so the Pistons are 3 games back from the Pacers. The Pacers are sitting at 45-31. They are 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, I think 3 games is like a big margin to make up in this short period of time, especially when the Pacers hold a tiebreaker and there aren't any more head-to-head matchups. So it's like mathematically possible. I am not counting on it by any means, and I guess we'll we'll sort of see what the team thinks because unfortunately, like when Cade's on the verge of coming back from this injury, the Pistons play the Raptors on Friday night and then the Grizzlies Saturday. They have to travel in between. It's a short trip from Toronto to Detroit, but still, it's a road back to back. Cade's not going to play in both those games. So, with the reports that they're targeting Saturday, like if he does come back Saturday, I could see that as like, okay, we're gonna try to catch the Pacers, depending on what they do, as high as they can go. But just with how well the Pacers have been playing too, I think it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's much of a shot they catch the Pacers, and like you said, I also don't think there's really too much of a shot the Pacers catch the Knicks either. So I
Just
think
get the 5 seed and then take care of the Pacers in 6 games, and it doesn't matter.
yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. That is what we all want. I really want the entertainment of that Pacers series. I don't necessarily think the Pistons would win it. I mean, I don't think they'd beat the Knicks either for whatever that's worth, but it'd be fun. And I think, like you said, it'd go to like 6 or 7, which would be really cool. If it goes to 7, then two, toss the coin, throw, who knows? Who knows what happens in a game 7? Anything can happen.
I think they're both fun matchups for different
Yeah. Yeah.
reasons. And yeah, like the Pacers, I'd say definitely has the more entertainment value with just the bad blood between those two teams, and obviously, like hope nothing gets out of hand to that would lead to ejections or suspensions for the Pistons. But overall, like that series will definitely have some major juice to it, like more than any first round series across the league, I'd say.
All right. So since we're talking about the playoffs, we kind of cooked up a fun game to more or less close out the show. I mean, if we get any more live questions, we'll certainly try to handle those as they come in. But let's both of us rank the following players in the following order. Okay. So we want to say first, actually, let's go the other way around. We're going to go least to most. All right. So which player would be the least vital for the Pistons' playoff success, and which player would be the most vital for the Pistons' playoff success? So there's our scale. I'm going to give you a wild card. So if there's a name that I'm about to list that you or I want to add in, we can. That would be where. But Malik Beasley, Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris, Dennis Schroeder, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson. So you go first. Who's the least of that crew?
Okay, so we're just excluding Cade and Holland
Yeah.
from the rotation, essentially. Okay, so
More or less, yeah. And
y-
Fontecchio. But
okay,
you could add anyone other than Cade because obviously he's the most important, and that
he's
would
the
be
most important,
least
but
fun.
it's a good exercise because I think the player who is going to be the most important is just the swing player who you need to get going. Like there's all this talk about uh just who's going to be the second fiddle in the playoffs. Like OKC has a big question. It's like, what are Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren going to do? Because you know what Shea's going to do. So who is that player that's most likely to
Wait, we
provide
want
this?
to go. We're gonna go up the scale.
Yeah, we're going
Start at
from
the bottom
least.
and then go up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Sorry, I didn't
as I
want you to.
work
I want to bury the lead.
right, so as like I work my way up, I'm trying to just get to who I think has the most opportunity to provide that extra like scoring oomph. oomph, a tough word to like say off the tongue, as Cade's getting targeted because we know he's gonna do what he's gonna do. So I'm gonna go Stu at the bottom,
All right,
Durin.
let's stick on that. We'll go one
Okay.
by one. All right. So what's the reasoning with Isaiah Stewart on the bottom? I think our list is going to look extremely different, only because I'm probably going to think a little bit more on the just all-encompassing role element, and it seems like
Hmm.
you're certainly focusing on scoring, right? Is that fair? So is that why Stewart would
Yeah,
be there near the bottom?
strictly because of his offensive game. Like I think Stu is going to be huge in the playoffs, just as a defender and also as an enforcer that role. But I really just think like to get wins in the playoffs, especially against a team like the Pacers, like you just have to have those like secondary and tertiary scorers, and like Stu, that just hasn't been Stu's role offensively. So that's why I put him toward the bottom. And then after that, I'd go Schroeder just because of the role. Like I think there could be nights where he's able to pop off, or if Cade gets in foul trouble, whatever it might be, like he'll all these players are going to be really important. So I don't mean it as a slight toward anyone. Um
Right.
and and then I'll after that I'll
Oh
go
wait, Blake, we're going one by one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting it.
You
I'm
keep
just
putting the
trying to
cart
think
before
of
the
my
cart.
list.
No, you're good. You're good. I think that at the bottom of the list here, I want to throw in my wild card because there's a name that I didn't include that I do think is going to be very important, but not necessarily worthy of being with the rest of that crew. And that's just Tim Hardaway Jr. Like I think
Mhm.
Tim Hardaway Jr., his shooting, his ability to, as he's been flashing more recently, occasionally get to the rim and have a nice finish, or get out in transition and have a nice finish. You know, I think that that's going to be really important for this team, just to have, beyond the veteran leadership, some semblance of consistent shooting, wing scoring type of player that he can be, and he has been kind of since probably over the last month or so. He's been fairly consistent outside of when he missed, I think, a little bit of time. But regardless, I think that that's going to be a valuable player, more so than your Ron Holland, your Simone Fontecchio, because of the size and scope of the role that he's going to be playing as a starter. But it's not necessarily to the level of the rest of these guys. For my number two, though, I think I'm actually going to go Malik Beasley. I think I'm going to go
Okay.
Malik Beasley. So both those shooting guards there down near the bottom, and only because with Beasley the role is so specialized. He's an okay defender. He puts in a lot of effort on that end, which is awesome. I love that. And he's obviously a great shooter, so if he can get hot, he's got the ability to change a game. But at the same token, he's not really covering many more weaknesses for the Pistons, right? Like I don't think that he's going to solve the ball handling concern if a team is really trapping Cade, right? So he's not your answer in that sort of counter. He's not a guy you really want isolation scoring if that ends up being a need for the team. So I'm just thinking in terms of flexibility, and it's great to have his shooting, and I think his shooting is going to be really important. But the fact that he is kind of siloed into the offensive role that he has and can't vary too much outside of it, probably just puts him less on this totem pole for me. And again, like you said, like no slight to any of these guys,
Mhm.
everybody, top down, right, all the way down to the guys that aren't playing on the roster, are going to be extremely important for any level of playoff success, whatever that level might be. So this is just like trying to pick the cream of the crop.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think I mean Beasley was going to be in a similar range for me, and like I think again, he's super important for for the team, and I think we've seen it over and over this season, just the games he's been able to pop off for 20 points, 25 points, whatever it might be. And he's been really like one of, if not the best 3-point shooters across the NBA. This entire year. So I think that player is 100% like super important to this team being able to win a playoff game. But yeah, just how he's like coming off the bench and everything. I think it's more like specialized, like you said, and I think I, I'm definitely like jumping ahead a little bit, but I do think that Asar and Duran are like super critical to this series. Like, if I had to choose my most important, I would probably go with Asar right now, just because of like offensively, I know he's not been doing much to like create for himself. But if once Cade's back, if he's able to create open looks for Asar Thompson and Asar is able to finish those plays and couple that with everything he brings defensively, he's a lob threat, just like Jalen Duran is. We've seen how important Duran is offensively as a pick and roll partner with Cade. So I think like they're like the swings for the Pistons for me, where if they're hitting on all cylinders, like you can really push this series along, or if you're not getting much for one or either of them, it might just change how things are going pretty quickly.
Let's stick on Asar Thompson for a second. So just chatting says that he hopes Tobias is fine and gets well soon. Obviously, we do as well. He says, although he's been liking Asar Thompson at the 4 of the past couple of games, love his defensive versatility, but think he's most needed at the point of attack. Just briefly, what have you thought about those few games we've seen Asar Thompson playing the 4? So that would have been Cavaliers and the Timberwolves game, if I remember correctly. And then just, is that kind of his role long term, or at least not necessarily role, but position in the starting lineup? Should he be in the starting lineup long term? Do you think that's where he fits best?
I I think so. Just I mean, all the talk that we had before the season about how we weren't sure about Asar and Duran playing together long term, like if that is going to happen beyond this season, I think you need to be able to surround them with like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's looked good at times, and Malik Beasley, like players like that. And I think it's interesting how Asar has got more like what you were talking about maybe a month ago now, how he is like handling the ball, but he's not really initiating offense. I think if he is able to like play the 4 and be that play finisher offensively, like I think that's his role. That's when he's looked the best. And when you see some games where you're like Asar Thompson's everywhere, you like what he's giving on offense, which is really what it is with him. We know everything he is defensively. And I just think roster construction wise, if Asar is your 4, it's easier to find like maybe not easier, but you have a better chance at finding those like combo guards slash wings to put next to him to alleviate spacing concerns and like open things up for Cade to be able to give Asar Thompson some of those offensive opportunities.
And I think the only thing I want to push back on is this idea, and I've seen this in other places, not just from just chatting here, but like that Asar Thompson playing positionally at the 4 means that he's no longer guarding at the point of attack anymore. So actually, one of the great advantages that the Pistons were able to put against the Cleveland Cavaliers was sticking Asar Thompson on Evan Mobley, and then when Evan Mobley set a screen onto Garland or Mitchell, switching it out, right? So instead of having the Asar Thompson having to get switched off in that situation, if you were already guarding Mitchell or Garland, then he would be switched on to Mobley, right? In that case, he was able to just take it from that point on. The challenge with Asar, and I think that this is going to be the big question for Trajan Langdon and the Pistons organization moving forward, is that defensively, it's not just point of attack. You want him guarding the best player as long as that player is not like Jokic, right? As long as the player is not a center, you pretty much want Asar Thompson to be the one checking him. The challenge with that is that offensively, he's a big. Asar Thompson is a big who can handle the ball. Like if you just break down what he does offensively, it is at the rim within 5 feet, off cuts, as a screener, as a guy sitting in the dunker's spot, just kind of sneaking around. He gets a lot off offensive rebound, like putbacks, and then every now and then he can handle the ball and make something for himself if he's got a mismatch. He's been doing a great job being the initiator of the first pass and getting the offense going, right? What I'm describing is basically Aaron Gordon if he doesn't shoot threes. Like this is a big who can handle the basketball. So the challenge with that, with Asar being a unique player in that way, is that his best fit as a forward next to him would be a player who defensively can guard up to the 4, maybe even the 5 if they need him to, right? So if you're playing a team that, like, maybe take the Timberwolves for example, we're like, yeah, Asar could do a good job on Julius Randle, but you'd rather have him on Anthony Edwards. So you'd want a 3 who defensively can step up and do that, but offensively can space and stay away from the floor and or stay away from the rim, I should say, and handle the basketball and do a lot off the catch from the perimeter in that way. That is a tough thing to find, especially if you're already dealing with a center that isn't spacing the floor himself yet, right? So I think that's going to be the challenge for Asar long term, but I do like the idea of, look, if you need to get floor spacing and the ability to create for yourself offensively into the rotation somewhere, it's a little bit easier to do it with a wing than a forward, right? So if you could find a 3, that's probably easier than finding a 4 who's basically Tobias Harris but a good defender, right? If that makes sense. So long story short, I agree with you. I actually have Asar as second. Yeah, I would have him second most important, most vital on my list. I think that the defense that he could provide against Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton is absolutely pivotal for the outcome of any given game and the series in general. So just from a defensive perspective only, you need Asar Thompson to be on his game and disruptive and taking those star players out of it. And I think he can. So I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Asar is if you can just find ways to get him going offensively, like you have nothing to worry about. And that's like a big thing. That's the talking point always with him. And I
Well,
think
it's like
just
on the broadcast the other night against Oklahoma City, right? When Greg Kelser's bringing up the reason the Pistons lost to OKC the first go around wasn't because SGA went off. It was because Cason Wallace, a guy who's a really good defender for them, also went off for like 20
yeah,
points. That's kind of Asar right now, right? Like he can
right.
elevate you above your normal performance if he can score, right? If he can be a scoring threat, like you're saying, then then you're really tough to beat. And so I'm with you. Hopefully they can do that for him.
Yeah, it's like could he I don't think he's there yet to be like a number 2 next to Cade offensively, but like for a few games here and there, could he be a secondary or like tertiary guy and just like give you a little bit more juice offensively? Like will go a long way. It's just like the swing in a playoff series that is tough to keep up with, and then you couple that with what he's able to do as a defender and the extraordinary athlete he is. If the team's able to get some steals, get out and run, then like it, you know what you're getting from that. It's just like being able to get him in the right positions and the right looks to help give you what you need offensively.
Okay, so I believe so far we have Malik Beasley and I had Tim Hardaway Jr. down there at the bottom of the list. You had Isaiah Stewart as second from the bottom of our most vital Pistons playoff performers list. So who would be next for you? Obviously, we've talked about Asar Thompson, having him near the top, but you've got guys like Jalen Duren, Dennis Schroeder, Tobias Harris, and that is it. So those 3 guys left. Who's coming next for you?
Yeah, after Stewart, I just have Schroeder. It's super important player. Again, I know we talked about him a little bit. But I just think you're just gonna need your first five to get going when you shrink the rotations down, and Schroeder is going to be super important keeping the offense going when Cade is off the floor, and he's a guy who can make some shots and create for others as well. So super important. I could just see potentially his minutes going down just a touch. So that's why I have him down there. And yeah, I really think just like the most important guys are going to be your Asar Thompsons and your Jalen Durans for this after Cade, of course.
I think so. I'm with you that he's not like in that top level, but I am just so worried. I know I've said this before, but I'm really worried about teams doing what the Atlanta Hawks did to Detroit in that one game where Cade was absolutely going off in the first half, and then they just trapped him in the backcourt and forced the ball out of his hands, and that game became a little bit closer than it should have been down the stretch due to that fact and that fact alone. I'm less worried about the Pacers being able to do that. I'm more worried
Mhm.
about the Knicks being able to do that. But I think that that's a viable strategy that we may see either team employ against Detroit in that series, at least for a game or two, and kind of see how it shakes out from there. So I think I'd have him one level higher than this one. My next on the list would probably be Tobias Harris, and I think that his scoring and his defense are both going to be extremely important. Both teams that the Pistons could be playing here in the playoffs have good wings that it would be great to have Tobias be able to confidently check at least a little bit, right? Like if you could have Tobias Harris focus on Pascal Siakam and actually do an okay job, then that frees up Asar Thompson to go check Therese Halliburton, right? If you could trust Tobias Harris to maybe focus on OG Anunoby or McCall Bridges, then same thing. You're allowing Asar Thompson to go down and check Jalen Brunson. So I think that he's really important in that way. But the next on the list being Dennis Schroeder, because teams I'm very confident are going to want the ball out of Cade's hands, I could see his minutes actually going up just to let Schroeder initiate, run the show, and then kind of put Cade off ball when teams are trying to do that so that, yeah, Cade isn't the one making the first pass, making the first read, and getting everyone in place, but he's still running the offense, and the offense is still going through him in that way. And I think just the veteran presence, calm hand, guy who's been there and done it before to handle that type of pressure in the playoffs in that type of setting, I think that's going to be extremely valuable.
Yeah, I think we'd just have those flopped. I'd have Tobias next. For like I think he's super important too, and we've seen at times when the Pistons aren't getting much from him, and also times when he's able to be that sort of like grounding force on the floor and just get you a bucket when you need it, and able to defend a little bit too. Just being able to take those other guys that you're worried about when Asar's taking on like the main offensive or defensive assignment. So I'd have him right around there too. And then after that, for me, it would just be Beasley, Duran, and Asar to round it out too.
So my top three then, it'll be Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson. So we've already talked about Asar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart. Both teams that the Pistons are playing have stretch bigs, and we saw in the game here against Oklahoma City early on in the first half just how vital Isaiah Stewart's defensive presence is to the functioning of this team. I know that the Pistons made a couple of pretty good runs. You could also attribute that to some lackadaisicalness from the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Like I don't want to. I would caution against putting the runs that the Pistons had fully on their shoulders. I do think OKC bears some burden of that blame, but regardless, Isaiah Stewart is, if it's not Asar Thompson, the most important player in terms of the Pistons defense on this roster, it's Isaiah Stewart. So I'd have him number three. Number one, It's Jalen Duren. Look, I don't think that he can do it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not expecting him to do this because we know that stretch bigs have given him a ridiculous amount of trouble in the past, and both the Pacers and the Knicks have very good stretch bigs who are not just good shooters, but they can do other things offensively, and they're pretty good rebounders and pretty good defenders to varying degrees. Turner, obviously, more than Karl Anthony Towns. But if Jalen Duren is able to be a average defender against those bigs, that is a game changer for this team. So I think like if one thing happens in any Pistons playoff series that actually drives them to winning it, like the series on the whole, I would the easiest path, I should say, the easiest path to that is Isaiah Stewart figures out, or not Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren figures out how to stop Miles Turner or Karl Anthony Towns. And so for that reason alone, just the upside of that, even though I'm not expecting it to happen and we don't have any reason to expect it to happen, the upside of that, that's why he's number one on my list.
Yeah, yeah, and super important for me too. I just have him at that second spot. Because I mean, he's going to be huge for Cade, and like what he's going to do in the pick and roll. We've seen it. A great rebounder. But yeah, it's always the defense with him. Like we talk about the swing for Asar being what he's able to do offensively. You just like flip flop it for Duran if he's able to um just like create some difficulty for the Pacers, because we know that they've exploited that in the past with how they use Miles Turner and then just try to attack Duran and switches and everything like that. If Duran's able to, like, he doesn't even need to totally cancel it out, but if he's able to just minimize it, like, totally agree. It changes the game for this team, and it will cause Indiana to have to like change everything that they're doing when they're trying to score.
Yeah, there are three things that become extremely important when you get to playoff basketball. One is defense, and so that's why Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart are going to be extremely important. The other is the ability to create for yourself, right? So that's why Dennis Schroeder and to some extent Tobias Harris are going to be really important, along obviously with Cade Cunningham as well. And then the third is the shooting, right? So Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., etc. Like if you're looking up and down the roster, guys that have limitations in one of those three areas or even two of those three areas usually are exceeding in at least one other. So Asar Thompson, maybe he's not great at creating for himself, and maybe he's not a great shooter, but he is a phenomenal defender, right? Isaiah Stewart can't really create for himself, but he can shoot it a little bit. He's a great defender. You can keep going on down the list with Tobias Harris, who's maybe not a good defender, but can get his own and can shoot the ball, etc. Jalen Duren right now is the only player where you look at it and you go, he would struggle with all three, right? We know that he struggles defensively, even though he's improving. We know that he's not a shooter, and we know that he's not really a guy you want to give the ball and just like tell him to go get his own shot. So if he can figure out to get in the way of a shooter, a shooting big defensively, all of a sudden that fixes the one limitation. And then there's not a player on the rest of this roster that isn't at least giving you one of those three things. And that could be huge. I just think that could be so important for the Pistons there in that series. That would, if you are looking at your roster, your guys that are actually getting playoff minutes, and you're saying every one of them is at least giving me something in that big trio of items that are so important for playoff success, shooting, ability to get your own shot, and defense. If everyone is giving you something, I think you got a real shot.
Yeah, and I think it helps that like we haven't seen this team in this atmosphere, like we saw the NBA Cup games and everything, and but I think it's different now. Looking back on it, it's going to be a totally new ball game. So I think just the importance of these games and learning how to play off of each other in such an important scenario, I think that will just like heighten everything a little bit. So I could totally see that happening. I mean, you can bring up the same point for both sides too, because both sides know how important these games are, and just get up for the energy is going to be at a different level for anyone. But I think just this young team trying to prove themselves. No one thought they were going to be here before the start of the season, and now where they are too. I think they're going to try to prove that like we belong here now. And I think that they can certainly do that just with everything we've seen from them, and even how they were competing against the Thunder when they had like a totally depleted roster. So I think just where this team is, the chemistry that they have, um, be earning their spot in this like moment. I think that they'll get up for it and like maybe not win a series like you said, but I think they'll be able to win a couple games.
Yeah, that playoff win drought is ending this year. We're calling it right now.
Yeah.
That is happening. There have been so many records, bad records that are getting buried this season by this Pistons team. That's going to be the next one. I can feel it. I'd be
Yeah.
willing to bet it all on that one. Blake, I think we could close it out there, but I just want to say I'm looking at your intro for the podcast, and I'm realizing we probably need to add your additional writing gig to that, don't we? I mean, we need to be marketing that.
Yeah, I need to update my intro. Yeah, I know I've talked about it before, but doing some writing for Sports Illustrated. I was actually working the night of the fight between the Pistons and Timberwolves, so I got to write about that, which was fun.
Pistons keep giving you content.
Literally, yeah. It's one of the best story in the NBA. So yeah, I need to update my intro for sure. And shout out to Truck Brewer who mentioned in the chat, Hunter Patterson of The Athletic just reported that Tobias has been ruled out for tomorrow's game against the Raptors. So hope that doesn't linger. Hope it's another thing that's like overly cautious.
And
I
hope they
think
can win anyway.
yeah, and I think it just like the tendinopathy thing, I know that can linger a bit too, but yeah, hopefully it's another back-to-back situation and we at least see Tobias upgraded for the next night. But shout out to everyone for joining. Just a reminder, you can call our phone line to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. Like Wes said at the top, if you guys can subscribe to the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel. If you haven't already, leave us a review, a comment, wherever. We'll read it and really appreciate all the support. And special thanks to our guy, Sean Korb, who's the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. Shout out to you guys again for all the great questions and talking points today. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.